everybody, welcome to my channel, Dreaming Tabitha. I am Tabitha, I'm an artist, and I'm going to be teaching you how to paint one of the most adorable creatures in our galaxy. Well, maybe not one from our galaxy, but from one that is far, far away. That's right, I'm going to be teaching you how to paint Baby Yoda, also known as Grogu. If you've been on my channel before, you know that I have taught this painting. I do a series where I teach other YouTubers how to paint, and Comics and Cosmetics was one that I taught this to, but I wanted to be able to teach you today how to paint your very own Star Wars Grogu. So let's go ahead and jump on into our supplies of what we're going to need, and then let's get started. Of course, we first need to have our supplies at the ready. So let's go ahead and do that before we get into our painting. We are going to need, of course, a handy dandy rag or paper towel and a clean cup of water. We're gonna need our paints, so really simple color palette here today. We're gonna be needing blue and green, yellow, and black and white. And it really doesn't matter which brand, what flavor, if you will, that you use. I often will use apple barrel paint with my acrylic paints. For our brushes, I like to keep things simple because this is a simple and easy painting. We have two 1-inch flat brushes here, one of my favorite kinds of brushes to use. So I have one that you can see is clearly worn out quite a bit. One we're going to be using for our background, the other one we're going to be using to sprinkle on some stars, and it's been around the block a few times, if you will. It's seen some things. It's kind of a rough texture when it comes to the bristles, which is fantastic for when we pull back and we're going to sprinkle those stars. Now, if you don't have a brush that's worn out like this, you can totally still use one of these kinds of brushes. This just works really, really well. And then we're going to need a pointed brush, a detail brush, however you would like to word that. I'm just using one of my long-handled ones. You don't have to. You can get the short ones just as long as it has a nice pointed tip there, very fine, very delicate. And that way we can go in for all of the details later on. And of course, we're going to need a surface area. I have here a nice 11 by 14. You don't have to make it that big. I recommend maybe starting on an 8 by 10. Wrapped canvas. You can use watercolor paper. Either one will work perfectly as long as we have a surface area to paint on. That is the whole point. We're gonna go ahead and get started with our background for our Baby Yoda. Starting off in this corner over here, we're gonna be grabbing our 1-inch flat brush, the first one, and I'm going to go into my yellow. Now, a lot of people tend to dip their brushes into water first. I don't do that. I don't think I've ever done that in my entire career as an artist. I've done that simply when the paint starts to congeal a little bit after a long period of painting, and I might wet it with some water, but when I first start, I don't do that. So here we go. And we're simply going to start off with a circular motion, right? So we're just gonna paint a circle. I'm gonna actually offset a little bit from the corner, so just kind of over here, doing kind of parentheses. This is our starting point, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be exact. This is basically just to help us to know where to put the face later on. It's not a perfect blueprint for it, but it just gives us this idea of where, okay, we want Grogu's face to be the brightest portion of this painting. Now, right now, I'm just starting off with some yellow, but I am going to incorporate a little bit of white. So we're going to do some two-toning, which simply means you're dipping one corner into one color of paint and the other color, or the other corner, I should say, into the other, just like so. And I'm going to make the white go towards the inside, so like so. And we're just going to blend back and forth like this. Now you can see it gets nice and soft, nice and creamy. Something I personally enjoy doing, adding a little bit of that lightness to it with the white. Just kind of softens things and helps blend, in my opinion. But as you go along in your artistic journey, you'll figure out what works best for you. And you can see there's really no right or wrong way to do this, right? We just need a place to know that, okay, this is kind of the center of Grogu's face. So I want it to be nice and bright. And then also we want to make it pretty big with the yellow, okay? Because darker colors tend to try to swallow up the lighter colors. So I want to make sure I have enough of this lighter color here. Go in with a little bit of the white here. And I want to make sure I have enough of the lighter color so that way when I start incorporating the green, it doesn't shrink as much, right? There's still enough of the yellow. So I've got a pretty good amount here. I'm not going to rinse my brush for the entirety of this background, right? So I'm going to go in and we're going to do that two-toning again, where I get yellow on one side, but this time we're going to add green. So I've got yellow on the one side, we get a pretty generous amount here. And then I'm going to dip into green, so now we've got the Green Bay Packers going on. And I'm going to make sure that my yellow is touching yellow. Every time you add a new color here, we're going to be doing the original color first, right? So we start off with yellow, we started off with yellow, we're introducing green. So I want to make sure my yellow touches yellow, and we're going to continue with this back and forth kind of circular pattern here. And look at that. If I'm gentle with the strokes here, don't be too aggressive. And the more you go back and forth, the more it's going to blend, the nicer it's going to look. So it's up to you how much you want this to be blended. You could have really harsh edges. You could have streaks like this in it. No wrong way. Feel free to explore some creative liberty, right? Everybody has a different taste, preference. It's up to you. There's no wrong way to do this. This is kind of like an interpretive background. It's not the main purpose of our painting today. It's purely meant to help us understand where Grogu needs to go, lightly, like just a simple blueprint, right? And then also, it's a little bit more complicated. It's something that you don't need to think about until you start really progressing in your creative journey here. But colors help tell the stories, right? So we know that Grogu's kind of a greenish color, depending on what kind of artist you're looking at. I added a little too much green, so I'm just bouncing back and forth between white and yellow. But again, no wrong way to do this, right? Just have some streaks in there that you can clearly see. It's totally fine. But yeah, Grogu's kind of this greenish color. And so we've just made him bolder green, kind of green and yellow, just because it stands out. It's more iconic, rather than trying to pick the certain kind of minty, froggish green that he is. But so our background is going to be from yellow to green to blue to black. And as we get darker towards the edge, it kind of tells the story of Grogu in the center and the galaxy's, space out towards the side. So colors play an important role, froggish green that he is. But so our background is going to be from yellow to green to blue to black. And as we get darker towards the edge, it kind of tells the story of Grogu in the center and the galaxy's, space out towards the side. So colors play an important role here. But there's no wrong way to do this. If you wanted to add orange, you could totally add orange. In fact, that would look fantastic. Add orange, put more blue, incorporate some red. It's totally fine. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And we're just going to continue trying to fill up the space here a little bit more. But when you're blending, especially, doing this, you'll see the different trail marks behind. Totally fine. But if you're looking for a smoother transition of color, go back and forth. Go quickly. Don't worry about it. Do a light touch, right? Don't press down and drag like this. Really light, like you've got a feather duster in your hand. Okay, I've got a generous amount of green. I've got enough space to start getting darker here. We're going to start incorporating our blue just for a little bit of fun, mix things up. Again, I'm not rinsing my brush. I'm going to dip one corner into my green. The other corner will go into blue. Really simple background that says a lot, okay? It's colorful, it's playful, there's no wrong way to do this. Now I've left very little because, again, dark colors, or black, technically not a color, will try to swallow up everything that we've done. So we want to work very carefully, very cautiously here, right? So again, I'm not rinsing out my brush, and I'm going to two-tone in black and blue, but I'm going to do predominantly blue, right? And just a little teeny tiny bit of black in comparison there, right? And the black's going to go to the farthest edge, but we're not actually this time going to be touching this edge. We're going to go far out, okay? Because I'm going to let it blend on the canvas. Because you can see how dark that is, right? And we don't want it, we want it to work seamlessly, where it's like a nice transition of color. So I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times, just trying to essentially lighten up the black, making it dark blue. Just carefully work it this way, and I can see it's still really dark, so I go back in for some more blue and carefully bring it forth. And again, it's okay if you've got some patches in here. It's meant to be outer space, maybe some clouds. Think of a story that goes along with it. Now, while we're waiting for some of this to dry, our main portion over here is most likely the driest because, of course, we painted that first. So even if this is a little tacky, that's okay. I'm going to take my next 1-inch flat brush here, and we're going to dip it into our white paint, but we're not going to dip it from the edges like so. We're going to actually come down very gently, get a little bit of paint on the brush, on the tip, and we're going to pull back with our finger like so. And sprinkle it around the darker areas. I really don't want any stars in Grogu's face. I kind of want them out here. So here we go. Just gently get a little bit on the top part. We really don't want to flood it with paint, just a little bit. And I'm going to take it and we're scattering some stars. Take it easy. Once you're done, we'll put this in our cup of water. Now acrylic paint comes off the skin really easily. I'm just going to go ahead and dip it even into my dirty water. Take my rag. There we go. So, while this is drying, we are going to go ahead and proceed with Grogu's face. Now, it might seem a little scary, the fact that we're not using stencils or anything, but that's totally fine. This is minimal line work, right? We're not going to be adding too many details. We're just going to get the gist of his face and keep it really cute, very simple, right? So I'm going to be taking my pointed brush, my detail brush here, and we're going to go into the black. And I'm going to do the first 2 steps that make it so easy. Once you have a place to start, it's totally fine. The rest, everything else will come into place. And you just need to have the first 2 steps, the first 2 shapes. And those shapes are going to be kind of like this very drawn out, very squiggly kind of W shape over here in our corner. And then we're going to do the top part, which is a mound. And don't be afraid to take up space on your canvas, right? This is like an up-close shot. It's okay if you're not going to get all of the ear, not all of the body. You can if you want to, but it's okay if you don't, because it just kind of changes the perspective of the camera. So, if you will, if we're taking a picture of Grogu. So here we go, no wrong way. I'm going to get just a little bit of black on my brush. That is our first line. You can do this. I believe in you. You can do this. Okay, right? Like, that's not hard. Just make sure it's nice and wide. Got a little bit of a rise right here, and then go down and come up again. You can do that, right? Easy. Our next step is going to be the head. We're going to leave a gap here and here for the ears, and we're just going to come up and create a little mound. You may notice that my lines are kind of incomplete. They're uneven. I like that. That is what we're going for. It's totally fine. But here we go. We've got like a potato, right? And now we have a place to start. We have the head. Okay, everything else we know where it could go. We know the eyes go here. We know the nose goes here. Body down here, ears out to the side. As long as you've got that place to start. So here we go. I'm going to come over here and do the ear. I'm going to come in and curve and then go out, okay? And I leave some wiggle there because his ears move a lot, right? And then I'm going to come down and actually come underneath of this line here. Let me make it clear, right? And that's the other thing about these broken up lines. If you want to, you can always later on go and fix them. Don't fix them now. Fix them later. Here we go. We got one ear. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Got one ear. Okay? So because the face typically has two of everything, you know, eyebrows, eyes, ears, this kind of thing. Whatever we have on one side, we need to put on the other side. So do the same thing over here, but you'll notice that I run out of space. But that's okay. I don't mind going off camera, if you will. Right? And then I just pretend like I've done a full ear, come underneath. There we go. Totally fine. Now, even without all the detail, we can totally see that this is already going to be Yoda type creature. Okay? So if you've accomplished that and you can easily recognize it, kudos, because that's half the battle. As long as people can recognize what you're doing, you can always get better with your details later. But it's really important that people know what it is that you're drawing or painting. So then we're going to put the little ear canal thing on the inside here. All right. I'm not too worried about if my pressure is even. I'm not doing too much pressure, but we're basically just recreating the shape of the ear on the inside. Just there we go. Now I did say we're not going to add too many details, but just a little bit of detail. I'm going to take some leftover paint, do some curves like this. Go. So, easy, again, easily recognizable as little Grogu, Baby Yoda. For the clothes, really simple here. All I'm going to do is come down a little bit. We know that the little curve in his clothing is really high up on his face. A lot of times it covers his mouth. So that's what this is here for, this little curve like so. Again, we're trying to go for imperfect lines here. If you have enough space, you go over and do the other side. And I'm going to come down a little bit. We're just going to kind of wiggle some lines here. And if you have space on the other side, you would do that too. I do not. So I've got this little curve in here. I'm just going to create some wrinkles in the clothing, wrinkles in the fabric, right? Great. So we've got a head, right? We've got some ears, and then we've got body down here. Next, we're going to go into the face, right? We're off to a great start. So here we're going to do the little nose. That way we can tell where everything is. And again, this is supposed to cover up his mouth, so his nose is going to be really close to this line. Kind of try to find the center here. do a little smiley face, like so. Right? That's not hard. We can do that. And then just kind of like a little bell shape towards the edge for some nostrils. Keep it really small, very petite. And then for the eyes, we want to make them small at first and then gradually get bigger as we go along. So I kind of find where the bottom of the nostril is and use it as a guide. And I tend to start on this side. So I'm going to make my curved line here, right? And you could do this on both sides if you wanted to. This would make little Grogu look like he's sleeping, which is super sweet. You could do that and leave it as it is if you wanted to. I'm going to come up, curve down. Whatever we do on one side, we do on the other as best as we can, just to give ourselves an idea of what this looks like. And I'm going to fill them in. Remember, Grogu is really known for those huge eyes, but we kind of start off small so we know where to have a place to start, right? And then we can adjust as we go along. We've got kind of a complicated background. We don't want to ruin it by going too big right away with the black, so we just start off small and then we adjust. Make the eyes as big as you want them to be until you get them where you would like them to be. There we go. Got some eyes. Now I'm going to do some real simple eyebrows. Don't want to make them too thick because then he could look really angry. So while he's, 50 or some years old, he's still a child, if you will. So we want them to not be too serious. And then whatever's left over on my brush, we do some wrinkles. I do just a little wiggle, long one at the top, shorter one on the bottom there. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush, let all of that dry. I'm gonna dry off my brush as well. I'm gonna make sure that I keep it as a nice point. And then while this is drying, I'm going to go into my white, get just a little bit on here, and just put some wishing stars. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I think it adds a little something. And then I'm going to rinse off my brush, and then one way we're going to finish this painting is to put catch lights in the eyes. Those are super important because he looks a little soulless right now. So the catch lights add a little touch of whimsy. I'm actually going to flip my paintbrush over, right? And I'm going to dip it into my white, just like so. And I'm going to go ahead and put some dots here. And just use the back of the brush so it gets nice and clean. And whatever you do on one side, try to do it on the other side so they match. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna put a smaller dot down here. Now it's up to you how many catch lights you want to put in the eye. I recommend no more than 3 because it gets a little crazy that way, but it does make it look really cute. So I've done it over here. That would be our Grogu and how we paint a baby Yoda. See, not too difficult. I bet you could do this too. Thanks for joining me. And there we have it, everybody, our very own Grogu painting, just in time for the new Mandalorian coming out. You can feature this on your wall and be so proud of what you've accomplished. Not only did we talk about gradients, blending, color theory, fine line work. We did it all, man. And you should be proud of yourself if you were able to accomplish this. Good job. I hand clap to you, because when it comes to painting any kind of artwork, the best place to start is somewhere. And even if it didn't turn out exactly how you thought that it should, doesn't mean that it's bad. Just means that we have learned what we could, should, and need to do in the next time we create some fun, fabulous project. Once you know how to do something, nobody can ever take it away from you. So if your painting didn't turn out exactly how you thought it would, that's okay. Now you know how to make it, so do it again. It's that simple. We've seen how easy it is. And if you follow me on social media or are considering doing so, you can find me on Instagram or on Twitter. And I would love if you would show us what you made. I've never seen a baby Grogu that I have never loved. See you guys next time. Bye. Hey guys, if you didn't see this video right here, you should totally click on it. I would really, really love that. Click on this video right here. YouTube thinks this would be good for you, or maybe I hand chose it just for you because I thought maybe you would like it. Click on this video.